Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining. I think it's 7:35 on the dot, so just proceed to start. Okay, so before I call up our viewer, um, we just basically just I'll just quickly do how far we've gone. We've been reading this book, Making It Big by Femi Otedola, for a couple of weeks now. We're actually done with three sections. The first section I had to do in the beginning, um, which had like about five chapters. And from there, we moved on to section two, about growth and expansion. And we had four lessons under that. Um, After that, we also reviewed, we went on to section three, which basically was all around reaching the top. And last week, we did our game nights, and congrats to the to our winners. So today, would then be moving on to section four, which talks about collapse and rebirth. And today, we'll be starting off with the first section of this the first lesson. I mean, the first lesson, which is like the 14th lesson of section four, around recognize your limits and cut your losses. And today, we have someone that will be reviewing this um, fantastic lesson for us, Abdul. I'll just hand over the virtual mic to him to take us through all of the interesting takeaways from this session, and we'll leave the floor open for people to then contribute. So, Abdul, just confirm that you can hear me. You can go ahead and unmute so that you can take us through this interesting lesson 14. Hi, Abdul.
All right. Hi. Good evening.
Good
I hope
evening.
I'm very well.
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. So, good evening, everyone. Today I have the privilege of reviewing um, the 14th lesson in the book Making It Big by Femi Otedola, and the title of the lesson that we're reviewing is Recognize Your Limits and Cut Your Losses. Now, personally, I feel this fourth chapter, starting with this lesson, is literally one of the most reflective parts of this book because Femi Otedola shifts the focus from just celebrating success to looking at should I say the downfall or the parts where he had issues during his entrepreneurial journey. So instead of presenting himself as someone who always got it right, he recounts one of the periods in his journey, that's during the collapse of Xenon. And throughout this experience, he demonstrates that most times setbacks are not like they are not literally like obstacles, but they are opportunities for us to learn and to reposition oneself. So this lesson it centers on the challenges that Xenon faced, literally, because when you look back in the book, he explained how the new government policies and the market realities they are changing, and of course, he believed that just being persistent alone cannot solve the problem at hand. So as the situation worsened, he came to a realization that if he continues to invest and just continue with Xenon, a business that was no longer sustainable, is going to do what? Is going to increase his losses. So one of the strongest thing that our first let us understand is that we should recognize our limits. According to what he said, recognize your limits. So, as someone who is an entrepreneur or someone who is trying to venture into anything, it's not just about working hard, not knowing when to stop, but it is about understanding what is working and what is no longer working. Because most times, many people just continue to pursue failing ideas or something that is seeming like, oh, it is prosperous, because they are emotionally attached to that actual thing. But the author, Femi Otedola, has reminded us that there is a striking difference between, when you are trying to persevere and being stubborn. So another powerful lesson that I want to share is that, of course, it is perfectly acceptable to, start small, but do not think small. Yes, do not think small. Because every great achievement, of course, it begins with a humble beginning. Do you understand? But your vision should not be limited by current circumstances. Also, the author warns about, he warns against monopolistic pursuits. Yeah, placing all your hopes, your resources, and your future in one business, just like he did with Xenon. Just because Xenon was literally one of the leading companies back then. But when you do like that, he made us understand that such approach increases, vulnerability. And when that single thing that you venture in, when it fails, everything collapses with it. So you need to stay against monopolistic pursuits. Yes, and um, the lesson also further gave us like a case study, because one of the case study that I think stood out to me is the $600 million deal that he rejected from JP Morgan. At first glance, if we look at it, this deal appeared, of course, it is extremely attractive, it is rewarding in terms of finance. But however, when Femi Otedola carefully examined the long-term implications and trying to even compare it with what he was worth at that moment, it literally showed that sometimes it's not every profitable opportunity that is a wise opportunity. Most times, some opportunity, it will appear lucrative on a paper, but the risk that that opportunity will carry actually outweigh the reward that the opportunity is coming with. So why should one just go into something just because it appears profitable? So you need to be what's it called? We need to be careful. So I have mentioned that you should recognize your limits. Another thing is that you should also know when you cut your losses. Most times, when many people keep investing in time, investing in money and all, but because they have sacrificed too much, they will not try to understand what is working and what is not working. Instead, they'll just continue blindly. So sometimes we should try to evaluate our progress and make adjustments whenever it is necessary. So if one was and also when you want to try to recognize your limits, we have different kinds of limits. In the book now, I think the author kept emphasizing on, I think, financial limits and business limits. But I would also want us to look beyond that aspect, physical limits, emotional limits, and all. We need to understand that most times these limits do not make us weak, but it allows us to make wiser decision. Yes, and yes, one thing that also stood out to me is the part where he said you should spread your risk and seek wise counsel. Yes, because Femi Otedola, he he advised that you should not place all your financial resources in one investment or even one bank. Try to diversify your investment, because it reduces the likelihood that, okay, if this one fail, this one will definitely not fail. If A fails, B cannot fail. If A and B fails, then there should be an option for C. So you should spread your risk and also seek guidance from experienced people. That was where he when he took this how do I put it, consultation from this company in China before he went into the petroleum industry in Nigeria. So you seek guidance from experienced people that would actually reveal the risk that even you yourself as an entrepreneur or as a business owner, you will not be able to recognize or you'll not be able to notice. Because if you actually seek guidance, then you'll be able to, navigate through whatever venture you want to go into. And a practical example of, diversifying your service was during this COVID-19 pandemic, because businesses that diversified their services and embraced other different kind of platforms, they survived more successfully than those that just depended entirely on just one thing or one traditional or one basic thing. So when you recognize your limits and you cut your losses, you should also understand how to move on. Because sometimes as an entrepreneur or as a human being, we should try to understand that losses will definitely happen. It is how you accept and maneuver and go around the loss that would actually determine the kind of person that you, because most people remain trapped in unsuccessful ventures because they believe that, oh, when they leave that unsuccessful venture, it means they have failed. But Femi Otedola made us understand that when you move on, sometimes that moving on can actually be the beginning of a greater success. Because had Femi Otedola not, had he refused to let go of Xenon at that particular time, he might have never even repositioned himself for future achievements in other sectors. So we should understand that moving on does not erase, any past efforts that you have put into whatever thing that you've done initially, but it's allows those experiences that you've gathered to become a stepping stone. Yeah, so in all, I'm going to just round it off with one thing, because like many people, I believe that those individuals that are successful, they simply refuse to quit. But after reading that chapter, I've tried to understand that success is not even measured by how long we hold on, how but by how we are holding on to the right thing. So, as a student myself, I've been, there have been many occasions that sometimes even some study methods might not even produce expected results. So, when you change your approach and leave that particular thing that you're doing initially, you understand that adapting is also a sign of, a sign of wisdom and not even weakness. So, recognize your limits, cut your losses, and know when to bounce back. So, a final takeaway is that true success, it's it's not for those who know how to stay long in a particular place. It's not for those who know how to persevere, but for those who can adapt, who knows when to adapt, and those who know when to let go of something and embrace greater opportunities ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Abdul, for this fantastic review. Um, Please, if you would like to contribute, just confirm you're done, right? Just confirm.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
like,
yes.
thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, thank you so much. If you like to contribute, please feel free to raise up your hand, and would call you. I mean, this lesson has been very interesting. It such that Femi Otedola is just telling us about his story, right? How Xenon collapsed and how he even felt it in his subconscious that, I mean, this money that I was making was too good to be real, right? He knew that, I mean, um, at some point, right, in his mind that it was going to, collapse. And when it actually did, he what did he then do, right? What happened then after, as in after that happened, right? One of the he gave us some, important, how will I put it, some things that made him to from lessons that I learned from that approach, and part of the thing that I learned was the importance of knowing, asking yourself, right, what exactly you want in life, and knowing when you have reached, reaching a stage of being contented with what you have. And he even gave an instance of the fact that, for him, being content was more like him being happy, and what made him happy was about him also giving back, right, giving back to people, making people happy and putting smile on people's faces was what made him feel content. He also even talked about the fact that in his mind before, right, he thought that doing some things, right, drinking and smoking and all of that was what would give him happiness. But he now realized that all of those things were even making him um to lose focus, right? He saw himself not being himself, and he saw himself missing important meetings and all of that. So he also told us, some key lessons that he learned from that, from when Xenon happened, right? And one of the things he mentioned was the importance of us being able to take an inventory, and at this point is also when you're starting out a business and all of that. It's important. It's good to start small, but not to think small, right? To think big, like even as you're starting out small, right? And also knowing when to pause, when to stop, and also so that you don't take end up having so much risks, going into so much risks and all of that. And he also talked about monopolistic pursuit, and that was, the story around Xenon, and that's what even Abdul also tried to, when he was giving us his song, he mentioned that part. And he also told us that the fact that the importance of being able to take calculated lyrics and also being content content with what you have, right? And that's something that you don't even learn. Nobody can teach you, right? You can't learn it from going to any classroom setting and all of that. But it's something that you yourself have to sort of learn, right? And know the importance of being able to say it's enough, or I shouldn't be greedy at some point. I should just know that money actually is not all that it is, right? And another thing he's also said was that the reason why he was even able to bounce back was pick himself up, and was because he the whole Xenon thing happened while he was still in, I think when he was in his 40s. He was like, if that had happened to him when he was much older, it would it would have been difficult for him to pick himself up. So then that also speaks to the fact that the importance of us, anything that I want to do, there's no best time to do it, and there's no, just start, no matter how small, any side hustle, business and all of that. Let's just start, right? Even as we are starting small, it's also important that we think big of how we want to, well, where we want ourselves to be, right? Because this is a good time for us to, we'll make mistakes, because being an entrepreneur is all about taking risks, right? You make mistakes and all of that, but how long you stay there is what's most important, right? We also talked about when to know when to also about cutting your losses, and stop doing things that, that made you feel, basically. And he also, those were the things that, that helped him along the way. And he also gave us an instance of when, one of the case studies, right? He also mentioned about when he bought, a car, right? A fairly used car. Okay, I can see that someone's hand. Let me just quickly wrap up this part so that I'll allow someone to speak. And when he bought it for, he said, I think, is it 8 or 7,000 naira, and he realized that he was spending so much money fixing the car and all of that. But he told himself one day that I can't just continue spending so much and I'm not even getting anything from this car. So he told himself that he was just going to, I mean, go ahead and just sell it, even though he was going to lose money. But I mean, and that's us being able to know when to, like, you know what, I've had enough. Let me just let go of this thing and move on, right? Which is very, very important in life. I'll just hand over the virtual mic to I can see, sorry, apologies. I'm trying to see. Yeah, I can see Shamsuddin's hand up. I'll just allow him to speak. And I think Kazimo's hand is also up. So please go ahead. Hi, Sham.
So good evening, everyone. So briefly, I think this book, Making It Big, of all the 8 books we have reviewed in this class, I think this is the only book that I've read all the pages from beginning to end.
Wow.
Because the more you read a chapter, the more you'll be anticipating what will be in the next chapter. So since the beginning of Kaizen, this is the first time we read each line of the book till the last page because of the message. You know, Otedola is like he's standing in front of a class and he's teaching us his life experience. This is not about storytelling or you are cooking the story or not. He's telling us what they have passed through. So you can see that we are taking it from the source. So anything is given to us, just take it as that's the first. Second thing is one of those things that came to my mind is when he said that we should not keep our money in one bank, and he gave us the 60-20-20 rule. Now, like I always say, that all of us we might not end up as entrepreneurs. Majority of us, we might be employees of labor. So what I learned is that even if you are not an entrepreneur, you are an employee of labor, you can also apply the 50-30-20 rule. That the 50 for your needs, 30 for your wants, and 20 for your savings. So people have applied this rule and it's working tremendously. That as employee of labor, we need to save for the rainy day. You don't just, like he has told us, we should eat. And one of those things that we don't just spend everything that comes to us as our income. So as an entrepreneur, you can have a 60-20-20, 60 for cash, 20% in property, 20 in stock. As an property, we can apply the 50-30 rule, 50 for our needs, 30% of our income for our wants, and 20% for our saving. That's number one. He told us our company pay us. If we are not given the right value, this is this guy, and I'm paying salary every month. Let me do it with it. So the way I'm reading this book, eventually, if I become an employee, fine. But at the end of the day, I will not end up being an employee and as an entrepreneur. I'm trying to apply some of these messages as an employee, as somebody, okay, if in case I don't become an entrepreneur and employee, what are those things? How will I apply these messages to my life? So, as someone that is working in different organizations, improve our value. But if our guy is not serious that we are not adding value, like the way he sold the car, spending much on it. So also our companies too can also say, let's do it. This guy is not adding. Like I said, let us read to grow. This, in fact, book as far as this guy is, I thought we had it on the outlier and other books, but when we saw this one called Geska, I thumb up for the Kaizens of this world that made this book possible. So that's my intake for, contribution for today's lesson. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shamsuddin. Kazim, I can see your hands up. Thank you for that. Kazim, please go ahead.
All right, thank you so much, Abdulafiz, and thank you, Former and Shamsuddin. Two things I just want to quickly mention because of times. Number one is Femi Otedola told us about not only to attack, not only to just continue to make progress, we must also defend. And he told us that for everything we want to do, while we're attacking and moving forward, we must defend. I'm not a full fan of football, but this little one I watched, this last one, made it clear to me that there are some matches that he even cited the example of somebody scoring 2 goals. Was it Morocco or I can't remember the country that played against Argentina? That they gave them two goals, and Argentina eventually left the match 3-0. Why?
Egypt,
Egypt. Thank
Egypt.
you. Egypt. So what I'm just trying to say here is that while you are moving on in life, you must defend. So if you are where you are currently working today, if your plan is to be bigger than that or go and do your business, you must ensure that you defend what you have before you go head on and attack. So the best strategy to work to thrive is for you to defend what you currently have and then continue to forge ahead. That's number one. Secondly, is not putting all our eggs in one basket. A lot of us, we have a lot of potentials within us, but we have limited ourselves to one particular thing. Oh, maybe the only thing I do is I'm an accountant. Maybe the only thing I do is I am a developer, all right? But you have the opportunity to do much more because of the capabilities that you have and the potential. So let's continue to sharpen each of the skills that we have because you might think this one will take you to the journey. You might lose that job. You might think this is the best you can do, and you see that you are losing it. So while you're losing it, before you eventually lost it, you should have come up with something else to defend yourself. So two things that I've said: defend and attack. Don't always move on without defending your territory. The second one is we need to be versatile and be prepared for different scenarios. So from my back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kazim. Thank you so much, Shamsuddin, and thank you so much, Abdul. It's been and this particular lesson has been very, very interesting, and so many take homes, even for me personally. And I think it's 8:02. Just before we go, I mean, if you have not read this chapter, I think I would say this particular lesson. I think I would say that we should go back and read it because there are so many lessons for us and so many lessons to learn and so many things that Otedola said in this particular lesson that we can actually apply to our lives, our personal lives, whether we are um, planning to venture into being an entrepreneur or being an employer of labor, right? Importance of having to plan yourself and diversify, have different don't put all your eggs in one basket as Kazim said, like having different whether it's different streams of income or different investment. I think that's one thing that also helped Otedola when Xenon collapsed, had shares in different banks. Imagine if he had all of those shares just in one bank, and that was the bank that did not to sell. Because I think he mentioned Zenith and I can't remember. I think UB also. So you imagine the importance of you being able to just have different shares of different companies, have different banks, and just being able to justify your different monies. Like don't put all your monies in one place, right? Because you never know. You can never can tell. So thank you so much, everyone. And it's been an interesting Saturday evening. And please don't forget to follow us on all our social media handles. We're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and and if you would like to, and also please would like you to join us if you have not joined our WhatsApp group so that I can get updates on what we are reading week on week and also in all of any of our gameplay. And if you would like to, review our chapters, of the lessons for us, we would be glad to have you. Just feel free to reach out to any of the admins. I think it's been an interesting.
Thank you so much.